Hey Swifties! Welcome to a brand new episode of Swiftie School, where together we walk Clownelia Street covering the latest news and Easter eggs from our fearless leader, Taylor Swift. I'm your host, Reagan Bailey, and it is enchanting to have you here. Now that we're out of the woods, let's get into today's episode.
It's another great day to be alive at the same time as Taylor Swift. Wow, wow, wow. Another week of pure Swiftie chaos. Put your noses on, jump into the getaway car because we're headed to Clownelia Street. Woohoo! I'm so excited to clown with you guys today. We have so much to get into before we do that. Quick disclaimer that this podcast is purely an expression of my thoughts and opinions, and in no way am I related to Taylor Swift or Taylor Nation, though I would love to be affiliated with them. I am not. Now, I feel like we've had so many recent developments, and they've all been small, but I feel like they hold greater meaning. And I'm going to be using the word red herring because I feel like that is what's currently happening with Taylor Swift and Taylor Nation all across social media, Eras Tour outfits, the Lisbon shows. There's a lot to get into, so that's what we're diving into today. Now, I personally feel like TS12 is coming sooner than we think. And in the same way that we started getting Easter eggs for Tortured Poets Department long before we even knew they were Easter eggs, I kind of feel like that's what's starting to happen with TS12. But don't shoot the messenger. I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, we just got Tortured Poets. Well, you know what? Mother raised us to be this way. Speaking of mother, little personal update for you. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed last week's episode where I got to talk a little bit more about myself and kind of my personal interest in this world, if you will. Obviously, I love all things Taylor, but there's so much more to me. And hopefully, if you maybe don't follow me already on social media, you could check me out there and learn a little bit more as a continuation of last week's episode. Now, I fear that we have so much to get into, I just kind of want to skip ahead. So I've got some notes here just touching on basic Easter eggs you may have missed if you were maybe traveling for Memorial Day, out of town, whatever it might be. Shout out to everybody who has a short week this week. Such a game changer. I feel like every time I have a 4-day week, I'm like, wow, this is what living is really like. Even though I'm self-employed and I kind of work all the time. But anyhow, we got the addition of new openers happening in London, which is really bizarre, and we're going to dig into this in the future. I think that was one of the most interesting updates that happened over this past week since the last episode. I have a lot of thoughts there, but Lisbon shows are officially in the books. I feel like that went by really fast. I'm so used to her doing 3 shows in a row that the 2 shows in a row kind of fly by. So we have weekday shows happening this week. So we've got one today, if you're listening to the podcast the day it comes out. We've got Madrid happening on a Wednesday and a Thursday. And honestly, I can't remember the last time we had weekday shows, but I'm assuming this is just whenever she had availability to book the venue or something like that. And then following Madrid, she's going back to France to go to Lyon. Is that how you say it? I've actually been there before, kind of like the countryside area. Lyon, France, and then Edinburgh. I know I'm butchering these, but that's kind of on the docket for the next couple of weeks in June. I believe I've done the math. I think we talked about this on a previous episode. June seems to be the most packed month when it comes to how many shows Taylor's doing. And if I'm remembering my math correctly, I believe she's doing 15 shows in the month of June, pretty much performing half of the month. Isn't that crazy? Like, absolutely bananas. Now, I want to just quickly preface by saying I feel like the orange color is undeniable. I feel like we got little touches of lavender for a minute, and then that sort of went away. We saw the lavender in those Fortnite YouTube short videos, and obviously the lilac skirt that she mentions in Tortured Poets. She was wearing the lilac skirt. She had the lilac nails. She was doing the arts and craft video where it was a lilac butterfly or something. So we saw little pieces here and there of lilac, and then I feel like it kind of fell off the map, but it's undeniable that so many of her era's outfits are now featuring the color orange. I'm not entirely sure. Just keep that in the back of your brain while we work through a lot of these groundbreaking Easter eggs that I've come up with today, because I personally can't figure out where the orange ties into this, and I think the bottom denominator that we're all kind of agreeing on, I asked you guys over in my broadcast channel on Instagram what we feel like the orange means, and literally everybody said, I can't think of anything else it means other than TS12. So there are 17,000 people that agree with me, okay? And if you're not in that broadcast channel, make sure to head to my Instagram bio and click Swiftie School in there, and you'll see a way to join. Now, in terms of the latest like eggs that a lot of people are talking about, we have Travis and the clothes he has been wearing as of recent. Now, I want to bring you guys back to, what was this? The 1989 TV drop? Travis wore an outfit that went incredibly viral, and it was like a blue and white kind of, almost looked like tie-dye, but it was kind of like clouds. It was a matching like jacket and pants. And it was called something like the 1989 set. It was really wild how on the nose the set was that he was wearing. So people have been thinking sort of since then that Taylor might gift Travis clothes that she wants him to wear, or she might dress him or give his stylist a nod at some suggestions. And there's a specific shirt that he wore recently while recording his podcast, and I think he maybe wore it out and about after. But it was this Gucci shirt, and it was a button-down shirt. It was black and white with kind of like palm fronds all over it, and then some of the palm fronds were red. So it was black, white, and red with palm fronds. The reason that this shirt holds significance and caught a lot of Swifties' attention is because this specific palm frond red, white, and black pattern can be traced back to several moments in the Reputation era, specifically the Look What You Made Me Do music video, where there's that airplane scene and Taylor is like sawing off the edge of the plane wing of the airplane, and she's kind of having this manic moment. But beyond that, outside of the music video Reputation world, she also wore this almost seemingly exact pattern. I don't believe her outfit was Gucci, but she wore this exact red, white, and black palm frond look during the Reputation era. Is like one of the last looks I believe that she wore before Reputation came out, or something along those lines. So just a little thing to keep an eye on there if you guys see any interesting clues or eggs when it comes to Travis, if you're keeping up with his podcast or his whereabouts as of recent. I'm not entirely sure. I know he's been recording his new Ryan Murphy show that he's starring in. I don't know if he's attending any of these Madrid, Lyon, or Edinburgh shows, but I guess time will tell with those. So we'll see. Now, diving into some Instagram updates when it comes to Taylor and Taylor Nation. I feel like Taylor Nation hired like a new Gen Z girly pop to run their social media because they have been throwing down some of the craziest and the most unhinged and hilarious jokes. But what I want to focus on for the sake of right now is Taylor's Instagram feed. Now, if you saw my Instagram reel that I put up, I talked about how Taylor typically indicates certain things going on in the era that we're currently in through her Instagram grid. So whenever you hear Swifties say like the grid is aligned, the grid is aligned, the reason we're so attuned to the grid being aligned is back in like the Folklore and the Evermore era. That's how Taylor announced both of those. Like she kind of changed her whole grid to be like one continuous image, if that makes any sense. So now people typically pay attention to number one, is the grid aligned? And number two, what is the pattern of the recent images that she has posted? So for the past, I don't know, several weeks, we've got at least like 15 posts here that have all been in black and white, or at least the cover image has been black and white. But the last two Lisbon posts, Taylor seemed to be kind of transitioning and adding in some shades of blue, which is interesting. So we do have color into the feed again, which is something to note. But what's more interesting to note is both of these Lisbon night 1 and night 2 thank you posts did not feature a singular photo from the Reputation era. So as you guys know, she posts these carousels, and if you swipe through, it's typically just like different images that photographers took of her during these shows. Neither of these feature Reputation, which could be a total coincidence. Perhaps she didn't like the images that were taken. But part of me feels like none of it is accidental. We know that, right? You and me both know that. But going to her Lisbon Night 2 post, this is where it really caught my attention, and I focused some of my Instagram posts on, or my recent Instagram reel on this. She said, "It's official. I left my heart in Lisbon." And the heart is a white emoji. So a lot of people, when I was chatting with them about what this could possibly mean, is that perhaps she quite literally said, I just left, departed away from the TTPD era and started dropping new clues towards something coming up. And that's where I want to bring you guys, following these couple of recaps, is sort of my theories into what exactly will we see through the rest of the year. Besides these interesting posts, we got a couple of things that happened in Lisbon, like the green and black bracelets that were handed out. I'm not entirely sure. I'm assuming, obviously, these came from the venue. Obviously, Taylor's team most likely chose these bracelets and passed them out. I don't think this random Lisbon stadium typically has butterfly and snake bracelets that they pass out, but they were very glaringly obvious that they were in relation to debut and reputation. Again, could be a red herring, could just be that Taylor was just fooling with us. I don't know, but it's just something to take note of. Some Swifties who attended night 1 and night 2 of Lisbon said there was an unusual amount of green lights used on the light up bracelet. They said it felt like their bracelets were lighting up green more than usual. Again, kind of hard to confirm whether or not that's true. But then there were some videos that came about where for the last bajillion shows that Taylor has done, she has sang all the songs in Reputation exactly the same for the most part. But this specific time in Lisbon, it kind of seemed like she sang some like additional notes. Again, we could be totally reading into that, but the most interesting piece of evidence that Swifties kind of seem to be honing in on before we dive into the dates and sort of clowning about the math here is the outfit shedding. I feel like this is not an intentional clue. I just can't see how logistically they're going to alter this Reputation outfit over and over again to make it look like the snake is shedding, but I think that would be a piece of museum worthy art if it does end up being that way. But if you pay attention to some of the images that have been shared from the Reputation set of Taylor wearing the infamous bodysuit, it does appear that the snake sort of has this iridescence to it that makes it look like it's shedding. I don't know. I don't know about that one. But what I want to switch gears to that is really random is the new openers added in London. And I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this because I feel like it's very interesting that she chose Wembley Stadium for the addition of new openers. And it begs the question of, will there be more additional openers added to the tour? Did she feel like it would be stale or boring to have Paramore over and over and over again for the next, I don't know, 80 plus shows or whatever's left? I want to pull this up while her Instagram is still, here we go, while I have it. And she said she just figured out that Fortnite is #1 on the UK Airplay chart. You guys have been amazing, and I can't wait to see you so soon. Thought this might be a fun time to announce the first group of opening acts I'll be adding to the London shows. They're going on before Paramore, which she notes, and she chose artists that she loves listening to. Here's what's interesting. She said, thought this might be a fun time to announce the first group of opening acts I'll be adding. So to me, that wording was very intentional in saying she has plans to add more opening acts. My question is just where and what shows. So I want to know what shows you guys are thinking those will be added in. I was trying to do some research on Wembley Stadium to just kind of see, is there any significance to Wembley Stadium? Why she would choose this? Obviously, we know So Long, London. But besides London holding some interesting significance to her past and relationship, obviously, Wembley Stadium is the largest stadium in the UK and it holds 90,000 people versus, for comparison, Liverpool, the Anfield Stadium where she's also playing, only holds 61,000 people. It appears upon my research that Wembley Stadium will be the second largest stadium that she plays on the entire tour, with Melbourne coming in first place at 100,000 capacity. So I kind of thought, oh, maybe if Wembley Stadium's the largest stadium she's playing, perhaps she wants to do a fun treat for the crowd. But being that it's the second largest, I just don't really get why, other than going back to when Travis was hinting towards the London shows and saying he's really excited for these ones. I don't think he was saying that because it was the addition of the openers. I don't know. Do you guys think that that's what he was hinting towards? And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, on the New Heights podcast, there was a clip that recently came out where Travis was saying he was particularly, maybe it was an interview, maybe it wasn't, the New Heights. Regardless, recently Travis said that he was particularly excited for the London shows. Do we think it was because of the addition of the new openers, or do we think it's because something else is happening? And that is where I lead you to the really extreme chaos that I'm about to do by breaking down some of these numbers for you. So we've been focusing a lot on Friday dates, right? And we focus on Friday dates because that is 99% of the time when any artist is going to release or announce something. Friday the 13th is particularly a fantastic date for Taylor because it aligns both it being a Friday, which is an ideal date to announce something, and the 13th, which is historically her favorite number, as we know. There's 2 Friday the 13th in 2024 that we have happening the rest of the year. We have Friday, September 13th and Friday, December 13th. Now, we've talked about these dates a couple times before, but These are important, so let me refresh your memory. Friday, September 13th and Friday, December 13th are 13 weeks apart, which is really crazy. So 2 Friday the 13th, 13 weeks apart. Now stick with me here. I talked to my broadcast channel about the Grammy cutoff, and I seem to kind of confuse some of you. So I want to just, debrief a little bit on why I am focusing on the Grammy cutoff and why this comes into play when looking at some of these dates and perhaps the next announcement for Reputation or TS12, whatever it might be. Taylor wants her albums to be eligible, obviously, for award season. So in some of that calculating when coming out with your album, she's not going to want to put herself in a position where she puts 2 of her albums in the running for the same award season, making herself in competition with herself. So we know Tortured Poets Department will obviously be eligible for the 2025 Grammys, but there is a cutoff. So anything released after August 30th, 2024 is no longer eligible for the 2025 Grammy season. It would go into the next season. So when looking at that cutoff date, we can assume that Taylor is not going to release Reputation, Debut, TS12, anything until after August 30th. That could mean September 1st, she's releasing something, but she's not going to do it until after August 30th, which means we can start to tinker around with numbers and figure out, based on previous releases, when she would announce an album versus when she would release it, right? So we saw Tortured Poets announcement early 2024. We got the release April 2024. So we can kind of start doing some math there, and that's where I bring you to the month of June. Month of June is when the Wembley London shows are happening, which Travis has called out. We now have additional openers. We know their significance when it comes to her and her past with London. But more specifically, I want to bring you guys back to why we initially focused on the month of June, which is that when you take the Tortured Poets Department logo and you flip it upside down, it spells CAIL, C-A-I-L, which CAIL in Gaelic, which we could tie to Ireland, translates to reputation. Capiche? Are we following this? Taylor is in Ireland on the dates of June 28th, 29th, and 30th. Now, where does this come into play? I'm bringing you back to Tokyo, when Taylor played 2 Tokyo shows, I believe. In February, she mentioned the number 175. So a lot of Swifties, myself included, have been tinkering around with the number 175 to figure out what the heck is the significance of 175. And we tied together that when she wore the green snake-like dress at the Golden Globes on January 7th, 2024, 175 days from that would fall on June 30th. Now, why are we focusing on June 30th? I quote, "On June 30th, 2019, the American singer-songwriter Taylor Swift entered into a dispute with her former record label, Big Machine Records, its founder, Scott Borchetta, and its new owner, Scooter Braun, over the ownership of the masters of her first 6 studio albums." Ding, 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 we have June 30th. We can take it a step further, doubling down as to the importance of June 30th. When we add up the date of 6, 3, 0, 2, 4, we get 15. What album has 15 songs? Reputation. And how do we add up 1 plus 5? Oh, it equals 6. Reputation is the 6th studio album. So I leave you with this hypothetical, which is that on June 30th, Sunday, June 30th, we would see an announcement from Taylor in Ireland at her show announcing Reputation, Taylor's version, releasing on what I presume would be Friday, September 13th, 2024. There happen to be 75 days between these dates, and I can't quite figure out why 75 would be important. I know that I've talked about the significance of 75 in the past, so if any of you guys can remember, definitely let me know. But that is my hypothetical for now. Reputation announcement on 6:30, September 13th release date, that falls after the Grammy cutoff, so it's in the safe zone, and then some sort of announcement for debut 3-4 months later on Taylor's birthday on December 13th, 2024. Case closed. That's where my head is at. I'm revisiting some old theories with that one, sprinkling in some new. But with all of that being said, I still don't understand the orange. My second thought is perhaps December 13th, 2024, Taylor's birthday, is where the orange could come into play, and we could see that play out a little bit further. I really don't know with the orange. It's throwing me, but it's there and it means something. Now, before we transition into our Swiftie submissions for this week's episode, I want to mention that we have some really fun You Need to Calm Down events happening in my Patreon group over at patreon.com/Swiftie School. And I would love for you guys to participate. We've got our monthly clown call, our first monthly clown call, happening on June 3rd at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern time. So fun. All ages are welcome. Everybody's welcome to join that. And it is rainbow theme in honor of You Need to Calm Down because it is officially Pride Month. It's also my birthday month in June. And rainbow is the theme of June. So come wear your rainbow. Come join us. Come clown. I want to talk about these theories deeper with you guys. I want to get into the weeds. It's so much fun. If you don't want to talk and you want to have your camera off, that's totally fine too. If you want your kids to join and listen in, that's totally fine. Everybody is welcome, like I said. So consider joining my Patreon. It's a great way to support me, all the free time that I put into this podcast and all my Taylor Swift content. And you can check that out at patreon.com/Swiftie School. patreon.com/Swiftie School. Now, transitioning to Swiftie submissions. I really want to focus on this one for today, which really threw me for a loop. So this came in from Rowena. I hope I'm saying your name right. And she said, "Hey girl, hey, gra." Before I read the rest of this, I want to point you to the word gra, G-R-A-H, which was brought to our attention by Taylor Nation in the recent post that was put up with Taylor Swift and Ice Spice. And it said, "Karma is that girl like gra." And I was like, what the heck does gra mean? Now, I think there's a double meaning, and Rowena describes this in her Swiftie submission, and she says, gra in rap language means listen up, but in Sanskrit, am I saying that right? It means home, or another interpretation is acceptance. And she goes on to say that numerology in Hindi is called gra. So I think this is really interesting, the tie here of the numerology double meaning of gra meaning listen up in rap, like in rap language, but then in Hindi, it has this meaning of home, acceptance. It's tied to numerology. So I feel like if anybody wants to dig a little deeper into gra and report back, I think there's a lot to be said here in this sort of random use of the word in this Instagram caption. But this is why I love Swiftie submissions, because you guys find stuff that I would have never found, which is really, really fun. And if you're interested in submitting a Swiftie submission, make sure you scroll down. You can find it in the description of the podcast. You can also go to my website, find it there. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you can find it there. If you cannot find it, it's in my Instagram bio on both Reagan Bailey and Swiftie School. If you still can't find it, send me a message and I will send you the form. And you can just save it and continue submitting for later. That is all I have for you today. I am so very jazzed for the upcoming month. I have so much planned, from my Girl Tribe Co. collaboration coming out, my meetup in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're able to attend that, I would absolutely love to have you. You can find the RSVP link in my Instagram bio. I am just so jazzed to see so many of you, so that'll be so fun. I'm headed to New York City. I have an event there, and my mom's going to be joining me, which will be a blast. I've got my birthday and some fun things happening for my birthday. So lots of fun content coming your way, and not to fear, I will be keeping up with the podcast every week. And as always, new episodes every Wednesday. I would absolutely appreciate if you would take 2 seconds to leave a review or just leave some stars on the podcast. I'm eternally grateful that you guys join me every single week, and I cannot wait to see what you guys submit next. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. I know all too well how busy life can be, and I am so grateful that you chose to stay. Now just know this is me trying, and I would greatly appreciate if you took a minute to leave a review or maybe share this episode with a fellow Swiftie. Make sure you join my broadcast channel on Instagram for more Swiftivities, and long story short, this love is real, and I'm beyond grateful for your support. See you next time!